Dear listeners, I welcome you to my channel. Leave your comments and impressions, I value your opinion. I'm sitting on the couch, flipping through news articles on my tablet. A lazy afternoon sun filters through the curtains, casting long shadows across the room. It's one of those rare moments of peace, a quiet reprieve from the whirlwind my life has become since the divorce. My phone buzzes on the coffee table, jolting me out of my reverie. I glance at the screen and see a message from Emily, my ex-wife. We've managed to maintain a semblance of civility for the sake of our son, Jake. But unexpected texts from her usually spell trouble. The message is blunt and shocking. Our son is sleeping with your new girlfriend. When I kicked her out, I noticed that all the jewelry was missing from my jewelry box. She's a thief. Or maybe you're in league with her. Give me back the money for the jewelry. My mind reels as I read the message over and over, trying to make sense of it. Jake with Jess a thief? The accusations swirl in my head, too outrageous to be true, yet too detailed to be entirely fabricated. I immediately try to call Jess, my girlfriend of 6 months, but her phone goes straight to voicemail. Panic gnaws at my insides as I imagine the worst. Without thinking twice, I grab my car keys and head for the door. The drive to Emily's house is a blur. Thoughts race through my mind, each more unsettling than the last. How could Jake be involved with Jess and the missing jewelry? None of it makes sense. I pull up to the familiar suburban house and take a deep breath before ringing the doorbell. Emily answers almost immediately, her face a mask of barely controlled anger. "Come in," she says tersely, stepping aside to let me enter. The tension in the air is palpable. I follow her to the living room, where Jake sits on the couch, looking thoroughly miserable. He avoids my gaze, confirming my worst fears. "Okay. What the hell is going on?" I demand, unable to keep the frustration out of my voice. Emily crosses her arms and glares at me. "Ask your son," she says coldly. Jake shifts uncomfortably, staring at the floor. "Dad, it's not what you think," he begins, but I cut him off. "Not what I think? Your mother just told me you're involved with Jess, and now there's jewelry missing. Start talking, Jake." He sighs, running a hand through his hair. "Jess and we've been seeing each other. I didn't know how to tell you. And the jewelry, she said she was just borrowing it. I didn't think." Emily snorts derisively. "Borrowing it? All of it? And what about the fact that she's living with us? Did you not think to mention that to your father?" "Living with you?" I repeat, my voice rising. "Jake, what were you thinking?" Jake looks up at me, his eyes pleading. "I'm sorry, Dad. I thought it wouldn't matter. Jess said she needed a place to stay, and it seemed harmless." "Harmless?" Emily interjects, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Your girlfriend moves in, my jewelry goes missing, and you think it's harmless?" "Where is she now?" I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. "She left this morning after Mom found out," Jake replies quietly. "I've been trying to call her, but she's not answering." I take a deep breath, trying to process the avalanche of information. My thoughts are interrupted by a sudden realization. "Wait a minute. How did you find out about them, Emily?" She gives me a hard look. "I came home early from work and found them together. In our bed." The room falls silent as her words sink in. The betrayal stings more than I care to admit. I turn to Jake, feeling a mix of anger and disappointment. "We'll talk about this later," I say firmly. "Right now, we need to find Jess and get to the bottom of this." Emily scoffs. "Good luck with that. She's probably halfway to Mexico by now." Ignoring her, I pull out my phone and call Jess again. No answer. I scroll through my contacts and find her best friend's number. It's a long shot, but I'm desperate. "Hello." A groggy voice answers. "Hi. This is Mike, Jess's boyfriend. Have you seen her today?" There's a pause, then the voice says, "Yeah, she was here a couple of hours ago. She seemed pretty upset and said she needed to lay low for a while. She wouldn't say why." "Do you know where she went?" "No, she didn't say. Sorry." I thank her and hang up, feeling more lost than ever. Emily is pacing the room, clearly frustrated. "This is unbelievable," she mutters. "I knew she was trouble from the start." "Let's not jump to conclusions," I say, trying to keep a level head. "There has to be an explanation." "An explanation? She's a thief, Mike. And your son is in on it." Jake flinches at her words, but I hold up a hand to stop her. "Enough. We need to figure out what's really going on." Just then, my phone buzzes with a new text. It's from Jess. Meet me at the old warehouse on Jefferson Street. Come alone. I show the message to Emily, who rolls her eyes. Of course. A deserted warehouse, how cliché. Ignoring her, I turn to Jake. Stay here. I'll handle this. He nods, looking relieved. I head for the door, my mind racing. What am I walking into? Why the secrecy? As I drive to the warehouse, a sense of foreboding settles over me. Something tells me this is just the beginning of a much larger mystery. The warehouse looms ahead, dark and foreboding. I park and make my way inside, my footsteps echoing in the empty space. A single light flickers in the distance, casting eerie shadows on the walls. I see Jess standing there, her face pale and drawn. Mike, she says softly, I'm so sorry. Jess, what's going on? I ask, my voice echoing in the vast space. She looks around nervously before speaking. It's not what you think. Emily and we've been working together. My jaw drops. What? Why? She takes a deep breath. It's complicated. Emily has some connections. Dangerous people. She needed a way to pay them off, and she roped me into her plan. The jewelry was supposed to be part of the payment. My mind spins as I try to piece everything together. So you and Emily, this was all a setup? Jess nods, tears streaming down her face. I didn't want to do it, Mike. But she threatened me, and Jake. Jake had no idea. I finished for her, finally understanding. He was just a pawn. Jess nods again. I'm so sorry, Mike. I never meant for any of this to happen. I take a deep breath, trying to process everything. We need to go to the police. She shakes her head vehemently. No, you don't understand. These people, they're dangerous. If we go to the police, they'll come after us. I feel a chill run down my spine. Then what do we do? Jess looks at me, determination in her eyes. We outsmart them. We get the jewelry back and use it as leverage. It's the only way. As crazy as it sounds, it's the only plan we have. I nod, a sense of resolve settling over me. Okay. Let's do it. The real adventure is just beginning. Jess and I sit in the dimly lit warehouse, our breaths fogging in the cold, damp air. The plan Jess outlined is as risky as it is desperate, but it's the only option we have. As I contemplate the next steps, my phone buzzes. It's a message from Jake. Dad, I'm worried about you. Please be careful. I send a quick reply, reassuring him that everything will be okay, even though I'm far from certain myself. Jess paces nervously, her eyes darting to the entrance every few seconds. We need help, I say finally, breaking the tense silence. We can't do this alone. Jess stops pacing and looks at me, her expression a mix of fear and hope. Who do you have in mind? I think for a moment before dialing a number I haven't used in years. Detective Laura Martinez is an old friend from college, now working with the city's Special Investigations Unit. If anyone can help us navigate this mess, it's her. Mike. Laura's voice crackles through the phone, surprised but warm. It's been ages. What's up? It's a long story, I say, glancing at Jess. You meet us? It's urgent. We agree on a rendezvous point at a nearby diner. Jess and I leave the warehouse, sticking to the shadows, wary of being watched. The drive to the diner is tense, every passing car feeling like a potential threat. Laura is already at a booth when we arrive, a steaming cup of coffee in front of her. She stands as we approach, giving me a quick hug. You look like hell, Mike. What's going on? I introduce Jess, and we quickly bring Laura up to speed. Her eyes widen as the story unfolds, and she takes detailed notes, her professional demeanor kicking in. This is serious, she says, leaning back in her seat. Emily's connections, they're not just dangerous, they're ruthless. We'll need to tread carefully. Jess nods, her hands trembling slightly. We need to get the jewelry back. It's the only leverage we have. Laura thinks for a moment before speaking. There's someone who might be able to help. A private investigator named Tom Reynolds. He has experience with this kind of under-the-table work. Laura makes the call, and we wait in anxious silence. Within an hour, Tom joins us at the diner. He's a grizzled, no-nonsense type with sharp eyes that miss nothing. So, you've got yourself tangled up with some bad folks, he says after hearing our story. First thing we need to do is find out where the jewelry is being kept. Any ideas? Jess bites her lip, thinking hard. There's a storage unit Emily rented a while back. She mentioned it in passing. It might be worth checking out. Tom nods, scribbling the address down. All right, I'll take a look. Meanwhile, you two should lay low. Don't do anything to draw attention. As Tom heads out, Laura looks at us with a mix of concern and determination. Stay safe, both of you. I'll see what I can dig up on Emily's associates. We need to know who we're dealing with. Jess and I leave the diner, the weight of the situation pressing heavily on our shoulders. We decide to stay at a small motel on the outskirts of town, a place unlikely to attract attention. Inside the cramped room, we sit on the edge of the bed, the gravity of our situation sinking in. What if this doesn't work? Jess asks, her voice barely above a whisper. I take her hand, squeezing it gently. We don't have a choice. We have to try. The next day, Tom calls with news. I found the storage unit. It's heavily guarded. Whoever Emily's working with, they're not taking any chances. We need to get in there, Jess says, determination hardening her features. Tom agrees to meet us at the storage facility that night. Under the cover of darkness, we gather near the entrance, the cold night air biting at our skin. Tom hands us each a set of earpieces. Stay close and keep quiet, he instructs. We do this right, we're in and out before they know what hit them. We follow Tom's lead, moving stealthily through the shadows. He picks the lock on the side entrance with practiced ease, and we slip inside. The dim lights casting eerie shadows on the walls. The storage units stretch out in front of us like a labyrinth. Unit 23, Tom whispers, leading the way. We move quickly but cautiously, every creak and groan of the building setting us on edge. We reach the unit, and Tom gets to work on the lock. It clicks open, and we pull up the door. Inside, boxes and crates are stacked haphazardly. Jess immediately starts searching, her hands trembling as she rifles through the contents. Here, she exclaims softly, holding up a small velvet bag. She opens it to reveal a collection of sparkling jewelry. Let's get out of here, Tom says, his voice tense. But as we turn to leave, we hear footsteps approaching. A flashlight beam sweeps across the floor, and we freeze. Who's there? A gruff voice calls out, the beam of light moving closer. We duck behind a stack of crates, holding our breath. Tom signals for us to stay put as he moves silently towards the guard. With a swift, practiced motion, he takes the guard down, rendering him unconscious. Move now, Tom hisses, and we don't need to be told twice. We slip out of the unit and make our way back to the entrance, adrenaline pumping through our veins. Once outside, we breathe a collective sigh of relief. We did it, Jess whispers, clutching the bag of jewelry tightly. But the relief is short-lived. As we reach the car, Tom's phone buzzes. He answers, his face growing serious as he listens. He hangs up and turns to us. That was Laura. She's uncovered some disturbing information. Emily's connections are part of a larger criminal network. They're not just after the jewelry, they're after you, Jess. The words hang heavy in the air, the realization that we're in deeper than we ever imagined settling over us. The night is far from over, and the real danger is just beginning. We need to figure out our next move, I say, my mind racing. We can't stay here. Tom nods. Let's get somewhere safe. We need to regroup and come up with a plan. We drive through the night, heading for a safe house Laura arranged. As we pull up to the secluded cabin, the weight of our situation presses down even harder. We're up against a powerful and dangerous enemy, and the stakes have never been higher. Inside the cabin, we sit around a small table, the bag of jewelry in the center. Tom spreads out a map, marking locations and laying out the next steps. We need to find out who's behind this and take them down. It's the only way to end this. Jess looks at me, fear and determination in her eyes. We'll do whatever it takes. As the first light of dawn breaks through the trees, we finalize our plan. The fight is far from over, but we're ready to face whatever comes next. Together, we'll uncover the truth and bring down those who threaten us. The real battle has just begun. The cabin is eerily quiet as dawn breaks, casting long shadows across the room. The gravity of our situation is palpable, and the tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. We gather around the small table, the bag of jewelry lying between us like a silent witness to the chaos that's erupted in our lives. Tom spreads out a detailed map of the city, marking key locations with a red marker. We need to identify the key players in this network, he says, his voice low and steady. Taking them down will require precise coordination and careful planning. Jess and I nod, absorbing the information. Laura is on speakerphone, providing updates from her end. I've been digging into Emily's connections, she says, her tone brisk and professional. There's a name that keeps coming up. Victor Moretti. He's a known figure in the criminal underworld, and it looks like he's the one pulling the strings. I lean forward, staring at the map. Where do we find him? Laura pauses, as if considering her next words carefully. He operates out of a nightclub downtown, Club Inferno. It's a front for his illegal activities. If we're going to get any closer to him, that's where we need to start. Tom nods, circling the location on the map. It's heavily guarded. We'll need a solid plan to get in and out without raising suspicion. Jess frowns, her brow furrowed in concentration. What about the jewelry? Can we use it as leverage? Potentially, Tom replies. But we need to be smart about how we play our hand. If Moretti suspects we're onto him, it could backfire. We spend the next few hours devising a plan. Tom will go undercover as a patron of the club, using his connections to get close to Moretti. Jess and I will stay outside, ready to move in if things go south. Laura will coordinate from her end, keeping an eye on the police activity and feeding us information in real time. As night falls, we prepare to put our plan into action. Jess and I park a few blocks away from the club, the city's neon lights casting an eerie glow on the streets. Tom is already inside, blending in with the crowd. The earpiece in my ear crackles to life as Laura's voice comes through. Tom's in position, she says. I've got eyes on the club's security feed. So far, so good. I glance at Jess, who's nervously tapping her foot against the floor. Ready? She nods, determination hardening her features. Let's do this. We approach the club, blending in with the throngs of partygoers. The bouncer gives us a cursory glance before letting us in. The inside of Club Inferno is a sensory overload, pulsating music, flashing lights, and a sea of bodies moving to the rhythm. We stick to the shadows, keeping an eye on Tom as he navigates the crowd. Tom, can you hear us? I say into the earpiece, my voice barely audible over the din. Loud and clear, he replies. I'm moving towards the VIP section. That's where Moretti usually hangs out. Laura's voice cuts in. Security is tight. Be careful. We watch as Tom makes his way to the VIP area, flashing a fake ID to the bouncer. He slips inside, disappearing from view. The minutes stretch into what feels like hours, and my nerves are frayed to the breaking point. Finally, Tom's voice crackles through the earpiece. I've made contact. Moretti's here. I'm going to try and get him to talk about the jewelry. I hold my breath, straining to hear every word. There's a tense silence, then the sound of muffled conversation. Tom's voice is low and measured as he engages Moretti in a casual chat, steering the conversation towards the stolen jewelry. Yeah, I heard about a big score recently, Tom says, playing his part convincingly. Some high-end stuff went missing. Any idea who's behind it? Moretti's response is guarded, but there's a hint of interest in his voice. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Why do you ask? Tom leans in, his voice barely above a whisper. Because I know where it is, and I'm willing to make a deal. There's a pause, then Moretti's laughter cuts through the noise. You've got guts, I'll give you that. But you're playing a dangerous game. Tom doesn't miss a beat. I'm aware, but I think you'll find my offer very compelling. The tension is unbearable as we wait for Moretti's response. Finally, he speaks. All right, meet me in the back room in 10 minutes. We'll discuss terms. Tom's voice comes through the earpiece. I'm in. Stay alert. Jess and I exchange a worried glance, knowing the next few minutes will be critical. We move towards the back of the club, positioning ourselves near the exit in case things go south. Tom slips into the back room, the door closing behind him. Laura's voice is a steady presence in our ears, keeping us updated on the situation. Security is on high alert. Be ready to move if necessary. Inside the room, Tom faces Moretti across a small table. Moretti is a tall, imposing figure with a sharp gaze that misses nothing. He leans back in his chair, studying Tom with a predatory interest. So, you have information about the jewelry, Moretti says, his voice dangerously smooth. Tom nods. I do. But first, I need assurances. This deal has to be beneficial for both of us. Moretti's eyes narrow. You're in no position to make demands, but I'm listening. Tom takes a deep breath, playing his part to perfection. The jewelry is valuable, but it's also hot. You need a way to move it without attracting attention. I can help with that. Moretti leans forward, intrigued. And what do you want in return? Protection, Tom replies. For me and my associates, we need to disappear, and we need your help to do it. Moretti considers this, his fingers drumming on the table. You're asking a lot, but if you can deliver, I might be willing to make a deal. Tom nods, sensing victory. I can deliver, but we need to move fast. The authorities are already closing in. Moretti stands, signaling to his guards. All right. Let's see if you're as good as you say. As Tom and Moretti leave the room, Jess and I are ready. We follow at a safe distance, blending in with the crowd. Moretti leads Tom to a side exit, where a black SUV is waiting. We hang back, watching as they load into the vehicle. Laura's voice crackles through the earpiece. Stay close but don't engage. We need to see where they're headed. We follow the SUV through the city, sticking to the shadows. The vehicle finally stops at a large warehouse on the outskirts of town. Moretti and his men get out, leading Tom inside. This is it, I whisper to Jess. We need to get in there. We approach the warehouse cautiously, slipping past the guards at the entrance. Inside, the warehouse is a maze of crates and machinery. We move silently, following the sound of voices. Moretti is speaking to his men, laying out the terms of the deal. We move the jewelry tonight. Get it ready. Tom stands nearby, playing his part perfectly. But as we watch, something goes wrong. One of Moretti's men pulls a gun, pointing it at Tom. You think we're stupid? The man growls. This was a setup. Panic surges through me, and I react without thinking. Tom, get down. I shout, bursting from our hiding place. Chaos erupts. Jess and I rush forward, tackling the armed man before he can fire. Tom grabs the gun, disarming him in a swift motion. Moretti's men scramble to respond, but we're already moving. Run, Tom yells, shoving us towards the exit. We sprint through the warehouse, bullets whizzing past us. Laura's voice is frantic in our ears. Get out of there now. We burst through the exit, diving into the car. Tom floors the accelerator and we speed away, the warehouse shrinking in the rearview mirror. We did it, Jess gasps, clutching the bag of jewelry. But as relief washes over us, we know this is far from over. Moretti and his network are still out there, and they won't stop until they get what they want. We're in deeper than ever, but we're not backing down. Together, we'll see this through to the end. The car hurtles down the highway, the adrenaline still pumping through our veins. Tom's hands grip the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white against the leather. Jess clutches the bag of jewelry, her eyes darting nervously between the road and the rearview mirror. Laura's voice crackles through the earpiece, a lifeline in the chaos. Where are you headed? She asks, her tone urgent. Steak House on Elm Street, Tom replies, his voice steady despite the tension. We need to regroup and figure out our next move. Understood, Laura says. I'll meet you there. We drive in tense silence, every shadow and passing car feeling like a potential threat. The Steak House is a nondescript building in a quiet neighborhood, a stark contrast to the chaos we've just escaped. We pull into the driveway and quickly make our way inside, locking the door behind us. Laura arrives shortly after, her expression grim. You were lucky to get out of there alive, she says, her eyes scanning the room. Moretti won't stop until he gets what he wants. Tom nods, setting the bag of jewelry on the table. We need to take the fight to him. And this once and for all. Jess looks up, determination in her eyes. But how? He's got an army of men and resources we can't match. We need leverage, I say. An idea forming in my mind. Something that will force him to back off. Laura's phone buzzes, and she glances at the screen, her eyes widen, and she quickly answers. What? Are you sure? She listens for a moment, then hangs up, her face pale. That was a contact of mine. Moretti's planning a major operation tonight. He's moving the stolen goods, and he's using the cover of a charity gala to do it. A gala? Tom asks, raising an eyebrow. That's bold. Laura nods. It's being held at the Grand Hotel downtown, high-profile guests, lots of media coverage. Perfect distraction. We need to get in there, I say, my mind racing. If we can expose him in front of everyone, he won't be able to retaliate without drawing attention. Jess nods, her jaw set with determination. We have to be careful. One wrong move, and it could all go south. We'll need a plan, Tom says, his eyes narrowing as he thinks. Laura, can you get us invitations? I can do better than that, she replies, a small smile playing on her lips. I can get us in as security detail. We'll have access to the entire event. It's risky, but it's our best shot. We spend the next few hours preparing, donning the uniforms Laura has procured and going over the plan. As night falls, we head to the Grand Hotel, blending in with the other security personnel. The gala is in full swing, the opulence of the event a stark contrast to our mission. Guests in elegant gowns and tuxedos mingle, oblivious to the danger lurking beneath the surface. We spread out, keeping an eye on Moretti and his men. I spot Moretti near the bar, his demeanor relaxed but his eyes constantly scanning the room. Tom moves closer, subtly signaling to me, it's time. Jess and I approach Moretti, our expressions stern. Sir, we need to speak with you, I say, my voice firm. He raises an eyebrow, his interest piqued. Is there a problem? Security matter, Tom says smoothly. This way, please. We lead Moretti to a private room, closing the door behind us. Laura is already there, a laptop open on the table displaying live footage from hidden cameras we've placed around the venue. What is this? Moretti asks, his tone wary. This, Laura says, turning the laptop towards him, is the end of your operation. We have footage of your men moving the stolen goods. It's all being recorded. Moretti's face hardens, his eyes flashing with anger. You think you can blackmail me? You have no idea who you're dealing with. You're right, Tom says, stepping forward, but the authorities will. This footage is already being streamed to the police. They're on their way. Moretti's composure cracks, his fists clenching at his sides. You're making a big mistake. No, Jess says, her voice steady. You did. When you tried to use us. Moretti lunges forward, but Tom intercepts him, forcing him into a chair. It's over, Moretti. You've lost. The door bursts open, and uniformed officers flood the room, taking Moretti into custody. As they lead him away, he glares at us, his eyes promising retribution. Outside, the gala continues, the guests unaware of the drama that's unfolded. We step into the cool night air, the weight of the past days finally lifting. We did it, Jess says, a small smile breaking through her exhaustion. Laura nods, her expression relieved. It's over. But as we start to walk away, Tom's phone rings. He answers, his face paling as he listens. What? Are you sure? He hangs up, turning to us with a grim expression. That was one of my contacts. Moretti's organization is bigger than we thought. He's just one piece of the puzzle. What does that mean? Jess asks, fear creeping into her voice. It means, Tom says, his eyes hardening, we've got more work to do. As we stand in the cool night air, the realization sinks in. The fight isn't over. But together, we've proven we can face whatever comes our way. And we won't stop until justice is served. Just then, a black car pulls up, and a familiar figure steps out. It's Emily. She looks at us, her face a mixture of fear and determination. I have information, she says, her voice trembling. But you're not going to like it. What do you mean? I ask, stepping forward. There's someone else, she says, her eyes meeting mine. Someone higher up, and they're coming for you. The revelation hits us like a punch to the gut. The real mastermind is still out there, and they're targeting us. The intrigue deepens, the stakes higher than ever. But as we look at each other, a silent agreement passes between us. We're in this together, and we'll face whatever comes our way. The fight isn't over, but we're ready. And we won't stop until we uncover the truth and bring down those who threaten us. As the night stretches on, we prepare for the next battle, knowing that the real enemy is still out there, lurking in the shadows. But we're not afraid. Together, we'll face the darkness and emerge victorious. The adventure has only just begun.